Hello again, SGBers. I'm Companion Wolf. For this week's Smile Game Builder tutorial video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create and import basic customized terrains into SGB for use in your games. Nothing fancy, just the simple terrain text and how they are used in SGB. If this is the first video you've watched in my SGB tutorial series, or if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified of when I upload new videos. I haven't spent a lot of time on SGB lately because I started development on my RPG Maker MV game, the Gladiator program Cabal, and this has taken up most of my time in between work shifts. It's a project I've wanted to create for a very long time, and I guess I just couldn't wait any longer with it. Anyway, this tutorial is about SGB, so getting back on topic, creating your own terrains is fairly easy. As many of you may have noticed, especially if you've been following me on Twitter or Facebook, I started creating my own terrain assets as part of my high-text terrain resource packs, which actually evolved from a lot of experimentation with SGB's graphics in general. And I will use some of their tile parts to create the terrain for this tutorial. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Zai's Seamless Terrain Blocks tutorial posted in the Steam community. This is a pretty good tutorial on creating terrains, which I'd recommend you read. The link will be in the description. Now, I use GIMP, but tend to use its Make Seamless filter more than the tile filter that I mentioned. So what's the difference between the two? Well, there isn't technically a difference, as they're both essentially the same and work in the same way, except perhaps in the way they render the final seamless product. Both methods basically arrange the edges of your image in such a way that they match the entire area when it's filled with your desired terrain pattern. It's kind of like unfolding a piece of paper from the center outwards, if you know what I mean, hence they become seamless. There are, of course, much better ways to create seamless patterns or tiles in GIMP, and indeed any other graphics editor, but I won't go into them in this tutorial. That'll be for a later one. Experiment with both methods to see which one works better for you. So what is a terrain? A terrain tile is basically a flat image that is then duplicated on each side of a cube to give it that 3D look. The basic terrain size is 48 by 48. However, since the maximum height for terrain on maps is 20, you can also expand the Y in multiples of 48. I'll cover that shortly. To start, let's create a new image with a width and height 48. I usually set the transparent background as well, and then under view I also check snap to grid, snap to canvas edges. These two just basically make sure that the terrain parts are flush with the grid and edges and don't go beyond any boundaries to mess your terrain up. And especially for the larger sized terrains, I use show grid as well. By default, GIMP sets the grid size to 24 by 24, but if you prefer, under image, you can configure the grid and then set it to 48 by 48. The same dimensions that are used for the terrains. Now, you have to do this each and every time you create a new terrain tile, which is annoying, having to go in and then select each one individually. So instead of doing that, what you would probably want to do is go into here it is, keyboard shortcuts, and then we can assign a key or a key combination to use for each one. So it's snap, and here they are: snap to grid and snap to edges, and then you would click on one and then hold down the key press, and then you'd assign the keys, and it would be the same way for show grid, which is here, and then for the configure grid, which would be here, you can also assign a key. Now I've used control 7, 8, 9 and asterisk to make it easier. As you see, control 7, snap to grid is 8 and 9, and then the configure grid would be control asterisk. And make sure that the save keyboard shortcuts on exit is checked if it is by default, but in case it isn't, it's just so that all of these key presses will be made available the next time you open GIMP. So now when the image is created, as it is here, what we can do is we can press 7, 8, 9 asterisk and then configure the grid accordingly. Makes life much easier. So for the basic 48 by 48 tile, I'm first going to use the dirt or ground. GIMP has been reacting adversely to the recording software I use, so where necessary I'll have to use some of the shortcut keys. But it's the #1 reason why I am finally steering away from GIMP. I've been using the program for absolute years, practically since when it first came out, but I know there are other better options out there, so we shall see. And this is what the tile looks like. So let's leave it as it is for now, and then just do the export as. So we're gonna go and then it would be under assets, I think, custom map, and then tutorials. I'm gonna save it as let me see, dirt 48 by 48, just for reference. Okay. Anyway, right. When you export and this appears, don't forget to uncheck the interlacing, otherwise the terrain will become corrupted in SGB. In fact, this applies to most images. So now what we do is go into add assets and maps. We're going to add one, where was it, custom map, terrain, tutorials terrain. So this one would be added. Let's just check. And as you can see, it spins around. Basically, it's the 48 by 48 image we created, duplicated 5 more times for each side. And then when this is closed, then it'll automatically update. In this case, it would be under tutorial terrains. Now I'm just going to draw a simple shape here and elevate it to say 2 or 3, like that. Now, as you'll notice, if we zoom in, you can see the very faint line which indicates the need for making it seamless. So let's go back into GIMP. So now making seamless would be under map, and you'd make seamless, and if you notice, if you're using Zei's method, the tile is also here. So by making it seamless, what it'll do is sort of extrapolate from the center out for each corner and each side, so it would be seamless. And then we export as again, or we can just export. Here we go with the keys. Right, so back into SGB, and we can add it again. Only this time it should be seamless. You'll also notice down in the asset data settings that there would be round edges like we saw in the first one. Well, this one can be squared off, just unchecked. This is usually checked by default. A quick note on stairs and slopes here as well. For a 48 by 48 block, you can only use the slopes. In fact, the stairs option will also only become available if the terrain graphic is 48 by 144, because it kind of extends the stairs outwards by using two parts instead of just the one. For the stairs and slopes though, I would recommend saving a copy of the terrain in a separate folder for each one, so you can then convert them directly to use in the game. And as this message says, it's already been used in the game, but it pretty much says that most of the time. So when you convert it, this will cause conflicts. So that's why it's better to have separate ones and then come in there and convert them into slopes and stairs. It's one or the other and not both, hence creating a duplicate and setting them individually. And then by the time it refreshes again, you can see that those lines have gone. Now let's add another one that I created before using the same way, and this one is grass 48 by 48, which is basically the same. It's just that grass terrain, and we'll keep rounded edges on. So now, there. And that kind of looks like a little hedge, doesn't it? That's really cool. Okay, so back into creating a new one. This time around, it'll be 48 by 96, which is one block across and 2 blocks down. And once again, we do the 7, 8, 9, and that change 48 by 48. Now for this one, I'm going to use this. What we can do is we can copy it and then paste it, convert to new layer, or go into edit, paste as new layer. It doesn't matter which method you use. And then it's the same way with this one, and we just paste it in there. I like doing it this way. Have the move tool, move it down, and that should be good, but I don't think it's not quite seamless. I guess this is where the tile filter would come in. Would be 96. I need to uncheck that. And it'll be 48 by 96. What the hell? Okay, so now when we merge this down, I guess here is where you can use the filter for the tile, and it would be 48 by 96. So when you have the tile, it should automatically be done. Now let's export it again. Export as, we'll just put it as grass. Grass 1, 48 by 96 is a reference point. Yeah, and then add it so that when it's used, here it will be. This is another reason that I don't, well, this is one of the reasons I don't like using tiles so much, is because it's based on the assumption that you're using Seamless in the first place. It does work, and it works really well. Then I guess if you're going to use it, just make sure that you're making it seamless first. Now that's interesting. So selecting the layer, I already did that, so you can press Control F, and it would be the same way for this. Control F, and then export as again. So is it grass 1? Re-add it. No, wrong one. Maps, add. Sorry if I'm going a bit quick, you know, it's just kind of like I know where this is and want to expedite things along. So now when it refreshes, it's a lot smoother. Those white dots, that's my bad, because I probably missed a pixel somewhere or something. Anyway, that's these are the basic two tiles you need to know about. Now the standard, the actual 48 by 144, which is the standard and probably the recommended. So fill with transparency, and once again key press. And then it would be in multiples of 48. I'm going to check. Yeah, they're all set. Now for this one, the basic anatomy of a 48 by 144 tile is that the first block is considered as the top. the second block is considered as the filler or the middle, and then the third one is actually the base or the end. And I'll come back to that. There's something very interesting. So what I'll do is I'll copy and paste this one first. I should do it like this. Edit, paste as, paste as new layer. And then the second one would be this one, to new layer, and then let's have this one. This one is pasted and then converted to another layer. It'll be moved like so. So now we do the Control F will make it seamless. Okay, so we merge all of these down before doing anything else. I guess we could use the tile, see what happens. 48 by 144. This won't actually be very smooth on the map because of the different layers or stratas or whatever, but this is because I wanted to show you something first. So exporting it as oh, that'll do, strata rock. Okay, and there you have it. See, remember that this is the very top, this is the middle, and this is the bottom or the base, and any other expansions. Now for this next bit, it's like as I said, it's for demonstration, and then there's one final bit that I'd like to show because I find this quite interesting myself, and it actually took me quite a while to realize what was going on. So in Smile Game Builder, what it has done is it's put the grass at the top, and then second layer, and any subsequent elevation that you have, which if you expand it up, then what will happen is it'll use the bottom. This is also evidenced by the pyramid wall that it comes with. There are actually two pyramid walls that come with SGB. Here it is, it's loaded. Now if we zoom in and then we do our usual this is a larger image because it's basically expansion, and its dimensions would be 48 by 192. If in doubt, GIMP will tell you right up there. Anyway, the top, and then this would be the first layer, the second layer, and then this would be the base, and any additional height it will use the bottom. So I might as well, I'm going to give a, I haven't actually tried this properly yet, so it'll be under man-made, and there's the one and there's the two. There you go, you see, top, first layer, second layer, and then the base is repeated, and then it would be the same way for this one. So bear that in mind for when you're creating assets. What I'll do is at some point during the week I will put up like a reference tutorial on the blog to make it easier. It's be called Anatomy of a Tile Set or something, or Anatomy of a Basic Tile Set, something like that. Now I did something very similar with the high text terrains, and starting off with the first one here, it's actually, this particular one is actually designed if you wanted a cave entrance or something. You could either have that, you could elevate it, and it would be designed where, say you could have some, I don't know, some steps leading up to it, or a slope or something that would lead up to the cave, and then you could access it. But any more elevations than that, select by elevation, you can basically you can see what happens. It'll repeat this bottom part here is actually what it'll repeat. And the thing is certain tile sets can be designed for certain things, because when you're creating your game, obviously you're going to know what works and what doesn't, and the chances are you're not going to release your assets, so you know what will work specifically for you. And if you're going to design like a cave entrance that's like this, or the other one here, which I think was only designed for 2 elevations, the same, the differences in between that is you're going to want to put the cave entrance at the top there, accessible by stairs, and you're not going to go above the above assigned elevation, because otherwise it somehow just wouldn't look right. And it would be the same way here. This is another one that I have designed, which is meant to look like a little tower. However, in this case, even if it's elevated a bit more, it will kind of like look almost like windows. So you'd have your door there, and then you'd have your windows, and the other one in this particular series would be this. The only difference is that it doesn't have this little cool, I don't know what you would call it, but it doesn't have these edges at the top. And straight options like that. And all of these are created using the same basic methods in GIMP. Probably to go down to 1, 2, 3. That should be good. So now that's it. The most important thing to remember is that the top is always going to be number 1, and the middle is always going to be the filler in between the top and the bottom for number 3. And that is how you would create the basic tile sets, and regardless of height. I'll continue with customizing the various graphics in a future tutorial that will include the terrains, animated terrains, and the different methods of making a terrain seamless. There are quite a number, each one has its advantages. And also another one would be going into more of the system graphics, and one that was requested quite recently was about battle effects, like for spells and stuff like that. I don't know when the next actual terrain tutorial is going to be. I have kind of like pre-planned several tutorials in advance, but in the meantime I shall end this tutorial before it gets way too long and I waffle too much. If you found this video useful, give it a like and subscribe for more videos. Don't forget to click on the bell icon next to the subscribe if you want to know when I upload more content, not just for Smile Game Builder but RPG Maker as well. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook for news updates on all my projects, sometimes with unique content I don't put anywhere else as well. I'll put the links in the description so you can visit the Smile Game Builder subsite and the RPG Maker blogs for more SGB and RPG Maker related stuff. So that's it for another tutorial. Thanks for watching. Until the next time.